All set, Peter? Yeah. Thank you. Tina.
Okay, so I just wanted to start with Councillor Ludwig. I appreciate your sentiments about how we got here. I also know that you know really well how the budgeting aspect goes for the Board of Ed. I said it the last time, I'll say it again, it's backwards. I think it's ridiculous that we have to pass a budget in February. Unfortunately, we received information from the state that simply was not correct. We have it in writing. They were giving us alliance money. In the history of alliance districts, they put you there to give you money to fix your school system. The craziest thing that happens is there's a lot of political players in the state of Connecticut. Are you all shocked? I'm not, but I learned how powerful they are. 3 schools were supposed to leave. One district was very proud. We're out. We're not going to be an alliance district anymore. I did it. I got us out of an alliance district. And they're like, okay, you're out. You're good. But you don't get $9 million of alliance funds anymore. They kicked and screamed. So they said, okay, instead of 33, we're not going to graduate these folks out. We're going to let the new 3, we're going to be 36, but you're not going to get as much money as everyone else. And so, okay, it was going to be 1.4. But to me, in this budget, anything helps, right? Because that's money that we don't have to burden the taxpayers, because that's what's broken too. We burden the taxpayers to pay for our educational budget. So we had information that we were getting the 1.4. The second year, we had information we were getting the 1.4. Our 1.4 was in House Bill 5003. And we were told it's in the budget, it's going to pass. It didn't. Overnight, it didn't pass. And we were shorted that money. The other issue is the excess cost. And this is where I get frustrated. And I understand your frustration, Councilor Pisner, I do. This is where I get frustrated, is we're caught in the crosshairs of the state telling us something in February, and then there's a legislative session. And we don't really know what happens and what people are saying behind closed doors. And then when the budget passed, we learned about the excess cost being reduced, even though it's the law that they're supposed to give us 100%. They said 91%. Somewhere along the way, it got reduced to 67%. That was a learning lesson. Don't budget what the state's telling you. You're going to reduce it. Like this year, we're going to budget what we got last year because we're not going to ever believe what the state is telling us. So yes, we budgeted for alliance funds because we were told that in real time. It wasn't somebody who just said, I think I want to budget for this. The other issue came up is it's not really being talked about, but they extended the ETLA age. So now we're keeping the kids in the alternative learning program till 22 instead of 21. And that includes outplacements.
Their ages. Age 22.
Age 22,
well,
sorry.
it's not only just age 22, it's the entire year you turn 22.
And
so if somebody turns 22 on September 4th,
right.
he's in for the whole year.
So, and what had happened was that first year when we didn't get the alliance funds, our contingency is 1.4 million. And that contingency is to use budget shortfalls. So that was used to cover the 1.4 because there were conversations that the state was going to make good to the alliance districts because they weren't getting funding. So it brings us to the next year and the budget gets passed at the state and they reduced the cost share. We didn't get alliance funds, the ETLA, and I just want to explain this, and I'm not saying it's anybody's fault, but Lorena had been made aware that there was 2.5 million that we received from the state of Connecticut, from the finance department. And so they asked Lorena, do you want to draw down from that? Both Lorena and Superintendent Drezek said, I don't know if that's our money. We're not going to jail. Let us figure out what this money is. So they thought that they could possibly have that 2.5 to help the budget shortfall. What we learned after many conversations, and me and Charlotte talked to the finance director, that the money was deposited into the wrong account. So it was never our money on the town side. So we understand that. I'm hoping that there's conversations that can be had between the two finance departments to understand that and make sure that doesn't really happen again, because accidents happen. So that was another facet to it all. And we got 78 special ed kids. It was nothing nefarious. It was nothing poorly done. I personally, if one of you two make it to the state, you're going to be in constant communication for whoever's sitting here, because there is a lot of stuff we don't know and we need to understand. So that's how we got here. It was nothing nefarious. I understand you're mad, okay? One of the things I do want to say is you're the majority party. Everybody's going to blame you for everything, right? So just take a deep breath, because when we were the majority party, we got blamed a lot as well. I know Charlotte had asked for repeated meetings for, leadership to get together or joint meetings. And we did want to get together because we feel it's important. I don't feel good sitting in this room having this discussion knowing I was the board chair at the time, because I thought back and I thought, should we have done something different? No, this email says budget for 1.4. This says budget for 91%. So, that's a hard position for me, because I don't want anybody to think that I've done anything nefarious or purposely did something, because that's kind of defaming and that's not what happened. So what I've been trying to do, and working with Mr. Kober, we're trying to come up with solutions so that this doesn't happen again. I actually asked before we came here, how do we know that we can cover, what happens if 78 new special ed kids walk in? And so Andy explained the way he budgeted. He's taking care of that in this budget. Whatever we paid for this budget, that's what we're doing to make sure that we don't get 78 special ed kids. We can account for them, I should say. The importance of having that meeting is that you can ask us if we're meeting monthly or even quarterly, what are our special ed numbers looking like? Our special ed costs are expensive. We don't always have the services in-house, so we have to contract them, and that's where it gets really expensive. That's why it would be beneficial to really start looking at expanding that Eagle Academy, whether you want to just do that piece of it and forget about the modernization. I think the Eagle Academy is a really important piece to this puzzle, because we are full and our special ed numbers have gone up, and we can have space for those kids in our district, and we're not paying exorbitant amounts to other districts. So Phil and I talked about, potentially the two finance departments getting together quarterly. Phil showed a budget to the finance committee bipartisanly. We liked it, but I understand what you're saying. You want it to be more the format of what John has. I don't know if you've seen Phil's proposed budget, but it gives you everything you asked for by school. How many teachers, how many full-time teachers. It even goes into your percentage of special ed, your percentage of free and reduced lunch, all that other stuff. I think it's a really good component. You guys might like it. It's less confusing than like a busy budget. It just really lays out your full-time and all that kind of stuff.
It's in the exhibits.
Yeah. One of the things we have learned, and Mike, maybe you can speak to it or not speak to it. A lot of things you do by past practice. We learned from this, past practice doesn't work. We have changed as a district. We had new kids come in. We've been assigned an alliance district. We're not getting money. Past practice doesn't work. That's why we're trying to work bipartisanly as a board to figure out, how do we not do this again?
I'm going to be honest, I agree with what you're saying, except last year, you did know what you were getting for Alliance. Councilor Hall, or Representative Hall, said we got it.
No.
And that's why I voted no on the budget last year, because it was wrong.
No, but I have to tell you, and we have it, we were not being told that by the legislator on the education committee.
Who was that?
Tom Arnone.
Okay, well,
Hold on. We have provided you with an email from John Kissel and Tom Arnone in 2022 explaining to you that the Board of Education is not getting any Alliance money because they fully funded ECS. Now, this is the miscommunication that the public and Councilman Ludwig's talking about, because the state of Connecticut fully funded ECS
Yes.
to the town of Enfield. So they don't owe you 1.4 million. Tom Arnone, through the request of the board, asked the state and sent an email in 2022 saying you are not entitled to 1 cent more from the town. I forwarded the email to you. Hold on. Now, Amanda, when she spoke, I give her credit, because she's the only one who sat here and said, We hired employees. We did what we had to do with that COVID money.
Ken, you didn't
Now,
let me finish.
Tina,
Didn't I
no.
have the floor?
but you didn't once
But
say,
you didn't let me finish.
okay,
So I'm gonna turn to, the people on the board with me and interim superintendent Longy. We were told House Bill 5003 contained alliance money. I'm not talking about the ECS cost share. I'm not. We were told from the Alliance Network at the state of Connecticut, we were getting 1.4. What happened in legislative session, we were not privy to. I understand what you're saying about how you said we weren't getting 1.4. I did not hear in any conversation somebody say, you're not getting alliance money and we're going to send it through ECS until after the state budgeted was voted on. After. And I would not make that up.
I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm gonna disagree, Tina, because I honestly believe that you were in the room with Senator Kissel and Representative Hall.
After the budget was voted
It
on.
was the town hall meeting that we had over in the Enfield.
Yes.
And they handed out paper. And I'm gonna be honest with you, the first year I was on the council, I didn't catch it. It was 1.2, and I didn't catch it. But I caught it the next year. Because they handed it out and they said, Alliance District's money is frozen. You are gonna get exactly, just like you were told this year what you're gonna get, and next year you already know what you're gonna get. It's already planted in there. And
After
that's
the
why.
budget passed.
No, it wasn't, Carol. That's what
The
Carol
town hall
handed
was
out.
the day or 2 days after the budget had passed.
It was in April.
The town hall I went to was after the budget had passed because I had wanted to ask about
It's
the
it's why
ECS.
I brought up the whole 1.4, because the town got that money.
Can I finish speaking?
Yes.
I went to the town hall, that was a June meeting because it was after the budget passed because I was trying to understand how it happened. I am telling you, it was after the budget passed is when we learned of stuff. And I'm sticking to it because that's the truth.
That's fine.
The ECS cost share. I'm not saying we're entitled to that money. The town, that was a town issue. The town budgeted the way they budgeted. I had nothing to do with that. The town budgeted 28, they got 29. That was Ms. Pisner's point, Councilman Pisner's point. I get it. That's not my issue. That's not my wheelhouse. As far as the support staff that was hired, I agree. That support staff was hired. That was supposed to be covered by Alliance funds because it was support staff. We didn't hire staff so that we could have class sizes of 12 or 14. We hired behavior techs and social workers. Had we gotten the Alliance funds, we have to submit a plan to say this is who we hired and this is why. Because the Alliance funds will only support certain types of hires. That's how we got here. And I'm just saying, like, at the time, this is what we were told. It was nothing nefarious. It was past practice the way that we budgeted, and we can't do past practice anymore. And we're working on it bipartisanly to fix it.
Can I ask what?
no, she's got the floor.
So, go ahead.
Are you done?
Yes, but I don't want you, I want to have a conversation with you. I don't want you to be talking at me because the ECS stuff is something that has nothing to do with me on the town budget book.
This, the 91% you said that you budgeted for, you've never gotten more than 71. I have all the numbers from the state. I have for 2 months, Tina, been chasing every one of the reasons you say why you are where you are to back you up. And they all fall short, every one of them. Amanda admitted, I'm looking at your numbers. In 2021, you had 774 staff. 22, 840, 23, 891, 24, 926. And you know what? Your proposed budget, you're still higher than you were before COVID.
Can I just clarify, not all of those were COVID hire funds, like we get other grants and dollar
I understand,
money.
Amanda, I
And so
understand.
I don't want to quote a number, but I do think we do need to be honest. And I also just want to say publicly, Enfield wasn't alone with hiring personnel
Absolutely.
with COVID funds. And
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that that's right or wrong.
No, I agree.
I think it's important that it's not like shame on whoever.
Plus the cost share, budgeting for the cost share.
And I'll just go back to my previous comments where I asked Chris, and I'll own it because I'm gonna say it here, where it's none of us sitting at this table and I don't want to ever make somebody look bad, but I looked back at our 2 previous years of budget deliberations. Because I was like, what happened?
Yes.
I begged for a greedy budget because I knew we were using COVID funds for things. And I said, what do we really need? Because we should have known, we need to know that number. And I'm mad that I didn't push for that more. And I'm mad that for over the last 2 years when we had majority, we didn't push for bigger increases because it's obvious that we need more. And so I think that's just a tough conversation.
And even though Chris Dresnick isn't here, Tina and Charlotte, you sat in a room with me when Chris Dresnick pointed and said last year, he pleaded with you guys to make cuts because he knew this was coming. Okay? Neither one of you said anything. Charlotte obviously wasn't the chairman last year. So Chris Dresnick saw the problem last year. He said it in the meeting here, and you said nothing, Tina. You didn't argue with him. You didn't challenge anything. So pushing all this blame onto Chris isn't exactly the answer either. And I'm just, he's not here
I'm not
to defend.
pushing blame on anybody. What I'm saying, are you talking about when we sat together for the budget meeting?
This was, I don't know, 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
When we all sat at this table for the budget meeting?
I don't remember. Who was
So I'm
in the
trying to
room.
put context when you
I
said
don't remember who was in
why
the
I
room.
didn't say anything. I'm trying to remember the meeting because we've sat in here quite a few times, so I'm trying to.
Right. Well, my point is, if we direct the town manager to do something and it don't work, it's on us. It's not on him. We told him what to do. Okay, so it's everybody on the Board of Education. You know, you can't budget on a lottery ticket you didn't scratch. And that's what you do with grants. And, you know, having emails from your state rep on your side from 2022 because he heard he was getting thrown under the bus on the floor. And I had the email before the meeting was over from John Kissel, Tom sent, verifying that no funds were due to you. So where the board thought they were getting this money, budgeting 91% when you've never gotten higher than 71 ever. All those numbers are documented from the state of Connecticut.
So Ken, can I just say, the presentation in the State Department of Ed said towns were receiving 91%. You guys like to say that we don't budget on grants, but you guys budget on grants. You budget on the ECS cost sharing grant. You budget 29 million. So municipalities have to budget on grant money. So to say that, now looking back at the state, we can't budget what they're telling us to budget. We get that. And yes, I was the chair, but I would also like to say that there wasn't equal representation at the finance meetings. We had 2 Democrats that showed up to every finance meeting and not 1 Republican. So we are a board of 9. Not just the chair. And I want you to remember that.
Absolutely.
Because don't want us to get into this position, but I'm also trying to explain how we got into this position. And I know what I have for texts and emails. They're printed here. And me and you, I'd love to sit with you and we can go through it. The biggest question is going to be for all of us in January moving forward, because this is another thing we all have to think about because we're all still going to be sitting here, is if we remain in the Alliance District, because this is things that I'm wondering about, what happens now? Like there's no guarantee, or where is this going to work? I don't know.
No guarantee on what?
Alliance funds. So if we,
Alliance
for
funds.
this upcoming budget.
Hold on, I'll explain alliance funds because it had to get driven and beat into my head. Alliance funds are nothing but a guarantee.
Right.
You will get 100% of the ECS from the state. which we get 29 million. And that's
That's
why,
not true.
That's not
It's
correct.
you don't get the full amount. A percentage, well, it depends, it's a calculation
Yeah.
percentage, and a direct percentage comes to the board, and the
If-
town gets
if-
shorted.
if the
If we get
town,
allowance-
if
allowance
the
funds,
town
right.
is shorted, if the town is shorted,
No.
yes, absolutely. It's absolutely true. If the
It's not-
town
it's
only
not
got
true.
28
That's not true,
million
Ken.
this year, you guys would have got a check directly for the $1 million.
Right.
But the town didn't get shorted, we got fully funded. So you guys are saying because Bob and company, let me finish, budgeted 28 million in ECS money, okay? He still wrote a check to the Board of Education funding you fully.
For 28.
No, for your $75 million. Whether he got 28 from the state or he got 29, you still got fully funded.
Right.
So when the money came in, I remember the day, Bob was happy. Oh, this worked out. We got an extra 1.4, but they raised taxes to give you that money. And that's where we disagreed. But they didn't short you 1 cent. And the state of Connecticut didn't short this town 1 cent. So now if the state changes the formula and lowers the ECS to the town of Enfield, okay? So now if they only give Bob 26 million.
ECS formula is different than
you
Alliance
get-
formula. Those are two things you're intermingling though, Ken,
Okay,
which is dangerous.
okay, then maybe we'll
It's-
sit
it's
down with the
tricky.
state reps and senator and they can explain it to you also, because this is fact.
Mhm.
And Bob, I think will back it up.
School finance project would be very helpful, and I think it's the other
School
piece.
finance project, I didn't overspend $6 million.
No, it's an organization that helps like
Oh.
explain school funding, and the other piece too, when you talk about grants, there's a difference. There's entitlement grants and there's like, we apply and we hope to get money. We were like, we get a ton of entitlement grants, which we do budget on because that's guaranteed money from the state for services.
I think we should focus back on the money,
5.6.
on what the town is going to do or not going to do. Bob, you're next.
Okay.